river fissures.
Hmm.
So I looked at that line and I had to use it over here, and I used the word fissures, F-I-S-S-U. I
Okay.
never would have thought of fissures of dawn
Yeah.
like that, but I saw that word fissures and I thought, oh, I can use it this way, you know. So it's another example of how the form of the poem actually contributed to the creativity because, you know, it kept giving me language and images. And then I tried at the end to pick up because the pantoum, the only lines that haven't been used, you see, are 1 and 3
Yeah.
because 2 and 4 become 1 and 3 of the next, et cetera, et cetera. So every line has had some use except for 1 and 3. So that's why I picked up some of those lines for there at the end. And I swear at that point, it just began as a lark, you know, with seeing those couches, thinking about other stuff. I had no idea where it was going, but now I see it as a poem about creativity
Hmm.
and how creativity happens from such unlikely sources. And you just have to not get up from the table or the desk. You know, you
Hmm.
just have to keep at it and see where your mind and vision and heart will lead you. And it may lead you to something new because Lord knows I didn't know I had all that in my head. It was new, you know.
Yeah.
So I really, and I like there's a kind of a playfulness in this
Hmm.
poem that I do also
Yeah.
like. That I thought, yeah, balanced well, you know, with some of the more serious ones in the collection.
The images I get, like it, whenever I picture it, it looks like a album cover, of a
Ah,
CD.
okay.
And I think that's what drew me to this one too. It's just the imagery and like the weird things that you
Yes,
draw creativity from.
yes,
And
exactly,
so I think that's
exactly.
why I was
Yeah,
the most drawn to this
yes.
one.
And I do, I mean, Discards, I think is a good title for that one too. But yeah, and that's a fun one to read aloud, you know, just because it just kind of, it's like we used to call a shaggy dog story, you know, it just keeps going. Have you heard that phrase?
Mm-mm.
Well, it's a story that just kind of keeps going on, and you sort of say, what's the point, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But it just keeps rolling. It just has a life of its own, as we say. So that's how that poem felt to me. It just kind of kept coming. But then it seemed to suddenly be about something.
Mm-hmm.
And so then when I realized, I went back and do some, I always, when I go back and do some revision to tighten some things or to see if I can make the language work better. But that one's probably pretty close to the original draft too.
It's weird how like some of the ones, I don't know, like you can't tell which, have been
Mm.
edited, and which ones haven't because, but like thinking of them from your own work, those are
Mm-hmm.
some of the ones that stand out the most because it's like,
Mm.
this must have been really powerful to me in
Mm-hmm.
order for me not to have to revise it as much as others,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
It's funny, yes, because I do think when you know you can get in a kind of flow and the intuitive choices that you make are really good ones. But I've also found that you can make an amazing difference with small things once you see that possibility,
Mm-hmm.
once you understand that that's the direction you want it to go in. You know, you can make a word choice that will be a much a much richer word, for instance. And some then do I try I would I always, regardless of what I keep, I've made a decision about it. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I never would say the poem has to stay like this because the the impulse of the moment needs to be protected. I want to maintain the essence of the impulse,
I
but I
like that.
never feel, you know, I've known some writers who will resist changing a single thing in a piece when because they feel that it came out of a zone or a special place, and it's like you shouldn't tamper with a miracle. Well, I praise the miracle and I want to maintain that immediacy of the poem. But if there's a word that could be better, you know, I
Mm-hmm.
think that's where the art, where the craft comes in to enhance. One of my favorite quotes on revision, though, it's Toni Morrison. She says, I revise and revise and revise in order to make it look like I never touched it. So, because it's true, you can sometimes, if you try to get everything perfect, it ends up looking it feels managed, and
Mm-hmm.
you've lost the heart of it.
Mm-hmm.
You've lost that sense of immediacy and presence and all of that. So I do think it's possible to over revise, but
Mm-hmm.
I think anyone who is a serious artist has, like even the oil painters, I mean, you can go back and change a part of an oil painting, you can paint over it and do it again.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea now, there is an art, brush painting. Do you know Chinese brush painting? It's yeah, it's where you grind the ink and then you use rice paper, and it's an art of, I can show you a couple of them that I have here, but it's an art of the gesture. You cannot revise it. You cannot change the ink that gets on the page. One of the first brush paintings I did, there was an area that I thought didn't work, so I tried to kind of do over it and put some other things in it to change it, and it looks so bad. And I keep it because I do think that it's healthy to engage in an art where you're not going to obsess over every word,
Mm-hmm.
and where accident in brush painting, you can't control it. You never know exactly how far the ink is going to spread. It's not like you draw it and then you color it in.
Mm-hmm.
The ink the brush goes on the page and you make a mark, and
That's
whatever
it.
is. Now you can make other marks on the page, but you can never go back and erase that mark
Mm-hmm.
and do it differently. You just would start a new painting, right? So I think it's healthy to engage in that as well, that the two kind of balance each other.
I like that. That's
Yeah.
interesting. I would love
Yeah.
to see them if you have
Oh
them.
yeah. Well, I've got a couple on the wall in here.
I'm gonna turn this
All
off
right.
because I've got to go soon.
Okay. All right.
But I really do appreciate you